You don't have any boats or airplanes bringing drugs into this country. The white man brings it in. The white man brings it to Harlem. The white man makes you a drug addict. The white man then puts you in jail when he catches you using drugs. Who is it that controls the prostitution in Harlem? It's the white man. Who controls the large sale of whiskey and wine? It's the white man. You don't have any distillery. You don't own Finley's. You don't own Oil Over Hope or Seagram. You don't put the seal on that bottle of whiskey. It's the white man. Who gives you the deck of cards and the dice that you use to gamble with? It's the white man. And after he sell them to you, he catch you with them and put you in jail for using them. We're trapped in a vicious cycle of poverty, of ignorance, of apathy, of disease, and of death.
And the reason why all of those things were going on in the hood, and you can blame the white man all you want. You can scapegoat it and blame the white man. You can do that. You ain't gonna get nowhere with that. You're just gonna end up sitting around pissed off, feeling sorry for yourself. It's like that nonsense Malcolm was talking about. Yeah, I say that. Who is it that puts drugs in the community? It's the it's the white man. Who is the one who puts whiskey and wine? It's the white man. Yeah, he can put drugs in the community. A person can put drugs right there on your kitchen table. But if you choose to take those drugs, you can't blame the person who put the drugs there. You have to blame yourself. So we have to take accountability and responsibility for what we do individually, not as a people, but individually. He may be in control of the companies and all that, but he may put liquor stores on every corner, but he ain't telling you to go in. Now, some so-called thinking, black conscious person may say, well, in a sense, he is saying, telling us to go in by putting all of these things in our environment. It don't matter how you try to make that nonsense sense. The only way that liquor is going to get down your throat is if you drink it. The only way that cocaine is going to get up your nose is that you have to start it. And the only way that heroin is going to get in your veins, you have to stick a needle in your arm and you have to push it. It's you. It's you. How's everyone this evening? This is in reference to the statement that I made yesterday from the footage that I just put right before this video that some of you were upset about. And this is just a response, This is going to be the last response video on this particular subject. Or actually, this is just my first time covering this subject. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not going to cover this particular subject anymore. Because what is meant by that is what a whole lot of people have come to understand, including Brother Malcolm, when he grew intellectually past the rhetoric of the Nation of Islam. Now, if you look closely at that footage, when Malcolm was up there speaking, what he did, before that speech, he had asked Elijah Muhammad of what he wanted him to speak on, along with what Malcolm had personally to say to the masses. Now, what a lot of religious leaders do is they like to distribute dialogue to manipulate the masses, you might as well say. If it's one thing that he said himself, Elijah Muhammad has said himself, was the black preacher is the biggest magician of Pharaoh. He has said that. However, by him being the primary leader of the Nation of Islam, he was in the same position as those magicians. Now, I bring that up because the dialogue that Malcolm was going off of, it did not have anything, it wasn't in the context of trying to inspire the people to do things for themselves. I mean, that's just like a whole lot of Christian preachers. They'll preach to you about Jesus and all of this, but they will never give you the dialogue based upon Jesus' real perception of the gospel, which was to inspire one to do for themselves. Scapegoating dialogue is not good for any listener. Now, let's go over that again. I say this again. No matter what anyone puts in your environment, it is you that make the conscious decision to utilize those poisons. You make the decision. I come up in Chicago, Illinois, and I've seen a whole lot of drug use. I've seen a whole lot of alcoholism. I've seen a whole lot of gang violence. I've seen a lot of things. However, I, myself, and other individuals who I knew decided not to give ourselves to those things that we deemed as self-destructive. So I say again, yes, it is the white man, the European, who distributes drugs in a community, alcohol in a community, after they have caused an economic strain on the Black community, so that you would be manipulated into getting angry. And then after you get angry, you get frustrated. And frustration's intention is for you to give up on self. And so when you give up on self, what do you turn to? Alcoholism, drug use, and other vices that are available in effect to what you're going through. Now, if you allow yourself to become frustrated in those areas of living, and you look around and you see that there's a liquor store on the corner or some drugs standing on the corner with someone who looks like you that's selling them and trying to encourage you to utilize them, then if you choose to go in that liquor store and buy that liquor, or you go over there and you talk to the individual who has drugs for you to utilize, and you choose to buy that liquor, and you choose to utilize those drugs, in spite of who put the liquor store on the corner, in spite who is standing on that corner, selling those drugs, you are responsible for buying them. You are responsible for putting those poisons in your body. You're responsible for that. Not no white man. The dialogue that Malcolm was utilizing was not, it wasn't in the proper context for people to perceive that you do have a choice to either fall for the trap or not. And as that speech goes on, he said, we are trapped in a vicious cycle of poverty, of ignorance, of apathy, of disease, and of death. Now, with that being said, he's telling you that we are trapped inside an environment. So what are you going to do? Are you just going to stay in that environment? Are you going to continue to be a part of an environment of self-destruction? Are you going to continue to participate in your own self-destruction? What are you going to do? So basically what I'm saying, Malcolm came behind after what he was told to say, and he did give you a choice. You want to stay here, or are you going to be responsible and get yourself out of it? However, what Elijah Muhammad gave him to speak, and he spoke it as other religious leaders would like to do, they are never going to encourage you to think for yourself and to encourage independent thinking so that you can resolve your own problems. What they're doing is selling you into coming into their institutions so that you can, for the rest of your days, depend upon them to resolve your inner problems and the vices that you have. Now, the Nation of Islam, I don't know currently today if they have drug rehabilitation programs. Now, on the series Godfather Harlem, they had those programs in there. But from talking to some of the brothers that I know who are in the Nation of Islam, they was telling me, and I've talked to a couple of elders, excuse me, I want to take this off because this is getting too hot. But I talked to some of the elders in the Nation of Islam, and they were telling me that, yes, we did have those programs, but the only thing that they misportrayed is that we never tied anyone to any bed for that training. We never tied people down, because the only reason why those people were there is because they made up their minds to come in and utilize our services. So it's a catch-22 actually. But the whole thing is, those people made up in their own minds to help themselves. And so that's a part of it as well. And what I mean by that is that the dialogue that was put out formally left people thinking that they had to depend upon someone else to get them out of the condition that they were in. And then when Malcolm came behind it and he told them what type of vicious cycle that they were in, sometimes you have to know what type of vicious cycle that you're in. You have to come to know this, and then you're going to have to understand the effects of it. And then you have to make up in your mind, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to stop it yourself? Or if you need some assistance, then we have a drug rehabilitation program over here to where we can assist you in your journey of pulling away from whatever vice has you enslaved. But the point that I was making yesterday is that simply because there's drugs in the community, simply because there's alcohol in the community, prostitution in the community, and prostitution available to women to utilize if they choose to in order to make money, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do so. And if you choose to do those things, you can't blame anyone but yourself. So it's time for a lot of people in our community who are having these problems to understand that you are doing it to yourself. So anyone who comes up and tell you it's the white man's fault, that you are a drug user, a drug seller, or a prostitute, they're lying to you. He may sprinkle those things and set up an environment for you to get caught up. But it is you who make the choice to do those things. So when it all boils down to, you're responsible for your condition, and you're responsible for getting in those ill conditions, and you're responsible for getting out of those conditions. So when it all boils down to it, you're responsible for your life, and no one else is. You're responsible. So all of you brothers that will call yourself beating up on me, oh, don't you love Brother Malcolm? Look, I don't get caught up in trying to convince anybody how I feel about Brother Malcolm or any of our former Black leaders, because how I feel about Brother Malcolm is my business. The same as you feel about Brother Malcolm, it might be your business, but it may be a joint trending business. Oh, we all love Brother Malcolm. Don't you love Brother Malcolm? Yeah, brother, I love Brother Malcolm. I know why I love Brother Malcolm. I may love Brother Malcolm for different reasons than you do, but I'm not going to jump on any bandwagon. And I'm not going to feel as though I'm obligated to say that I love Brother Malcolm just to make all of you in the Black community to feel comfortable. I don't really care how you feel. Whether you feel comfortable or you're not comfortable with what I said. The whole thing is you're responsible for what you do. When I was 11 years old, I was sitting down watching a television program with my Uncle Shorty. I was sitting on the floor and he was sitting in a chair right next to me. And he was sitting there, he was smoking a cigarette. And what he was doing, he was blowing the smoke towards the TV screen. And after a while, he started, the smoke started gathering. So I found myself doing this all night. And then all of a sudden, I'm looking up at my Uncle Shorty while he's smoking the cigarette. He's inhaling the cigarette smoke in his body, and he's blowing the smoke out of his mouth and his nose. I watched him do this 3 times. And then he was looking down at me, staring up at him while he was doing this. And so He looked back at the TV. He looked down again. Then he looked back at the TV. And then the third time, he looked down at me. He said, "What are you looking at?" And I said, "I'm looking at you." And so he went back smoking a cigarette. He took the smoke out. He looked down at me once again. He said, "Who Red?" They used to call me that. "Why are you staring at me?" And so I told him, I said, "I'm trying to understand, why are you inhaling smoke in your body and blowing it out through your nose and your mouth? I'm just trying to figure out why are you doing that?" And his response is equivalent to what you hear far too often today, because I'm a grown-ass man and I'll do whatever I want to do. Fine. You be grown. You can be grown and you can be productive. Or you can be grown and you can be self-destructive. It's your choice. You only get one organism. Take care of it. So when are our people, or Black people individually, when are you going to stop blaming everyone else for what you do to yourself? That's the whole point. And as long as you're pointing the finger at someone else, you're not being responsible for what you do to yourself. So if this is not able to be understood, I don't know what to tell you. But as I said before, that dialogue was given to the crowd in the wrong context. Everything was the white man's fault. You are a drug addict because the white man made you. You are a prostitute because the white man made you a prostitute. You're an alcoholic because the white man made you an alcoholic. No. When you choose to be a prostitute, it's your choice. When you choose to utilize drugs, you chose to utilize those drugs, as well as alcohol. It's no one's fault. And it's no one's choice but yours. It's you. I say again, it's you. Coming up in Chicago, I was surrounded. I come up on the south side of Chicago. I was surrounded by drugs. I was surrounded by alcoholism. I was surrounded by gang activity. I was surrounded by all of those things. But the Creator gave me the greatest gift that it can give to any human being. The gift, the ability to think for oneself, in spite of what is activating in the environment. Don't fall for that foolishness. You're much more intelligent than that. Utilize your intelligence. You know what's right. You don't need anyone telling you what's right. So you mean to tell me a person who's sitting there putting a needle in their arm, doing heroin, you don't know you're destroying yourself? All you want to do is feel good because the white man created an environment and a economic system that's against me. So I'm just going to destroy myself with these drugs. I'm just going to drink myself to death with this alcohol. And I'm just going to lay around and sleep around with a whole lot of different men because I need some money. Come on. You're more intelligent than that. You're too intelligent. Conform not of the things of this world. Be intelligent. Be responsible. Be yourself.